Good morning and welcome to our UU Holton Sunday Service online edition from the Unitarian Parlor in Holton, Maine. We thank you for joining us on this first Sunday of November, for showing up and for helping us hold the space, sacred space for community and mutual support. Today we continue to explore our theme of making our way forward in these difficult times of extended COVID pandemic complications. So far we've looked at endurance, courage, and today we move on to resilience. How do we adjust as we go when we may not know exactly where we're going? The title of today's service is Times of Resilience. Again, thank you for joining us and spending part of your day right here. We'd like the chalice today to remind us of our innate ability to see clearly, to think clearly, and to live in a manner that benefits all those who are around us. We live in the light and in love. This morning, may we use this time to enter a simplified state, a space where our thoughts do not become a distraction, a place where we do not feel insecure or anxious, a consciousness that is acutely aware of both our body and our mind, a spirit that is free and uninhibited by outer and inner restrictions. With the breath and with sound, we experience this moment together. Breathe with me. The circle has long been a symbol for the timeless, no beginning or no end. It's hard to even know where it starts. When it comes to resiliency, it's helpful to keep a circle in mind. As the circle spins, you have to keep moving as well. If you're too rigid or set in your own mind, it's just not going to work. Here's a poem by Rumi for opening words titled Zero Circle, subtitled, Arrive at the point where you know not where you are. Be helpless, dumbfounded, unable to say yes or no, and then a stretcher will come from grace to gather us up. We are too dull-eyed to see that beauty. If we say we can, we're lying. If we say no, we don't see it. And that no will knock us hard in the head and shut tight our window onto spirit. So let us instead not be sure of anything besides ourselves and only that. At that point, miraculous beings will suddenly come running to help us, dazed, crazed, lying in a zero circle, speechless. We shall be saying finally, with tremendous eloquence, I quit. Lead me to where I know not where I'm going. When we have totally surrendered to that beauty, we shall be a mighty kindness. Words by Rumi. So let us go ahead and light candles of joy and concern this morning for those things going on in our lives and in our world. Let us light candles as we continue the journey. As you are watching this recording, we just turned our clocks back 1 hour as part of daylight savings time. A seasonal ritual where we do gain an extra hour of sleep, but it sure does seem to get dark early. So we light this candle for the shortening of days and the strengthening of our stamina. President Joe Biden met with Pope Francis last week as they discussed issues facing our planet, climate change, caring for the poor, and finding ways to ease suffering caused by the pandemic. So we light this candle for global cooperation and leadership with broad vision and determination. We light this candle of concern for those impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. To heal, we must remember, we shine a light in the darkness for those we have lost. This bowl of sand and candles holds our pain, our joys, and our hopes. And we light this silent candle today for those prayers and concerns, unspoken, unarticulated, that are on our hearts this morning. And we'll create some space here for you at home for a mental list to send energy and prayers to those that you are concerned about this morning, who you are praying for. And we'll take just a moment. This morning I'd like to say the 4 Limitless Ones prayer or chant. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness. May we be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May we not be separated from the great happiness devoid of suffering. May we dwell in the great equanimity free from anger, aggression, and exclusion. Let us live in love and liberation today. Amen, and blessed be. For our musical selection this morning, we have a performance from one of our UU concerts in the sanctuary from several years ago. This is the Chris Mcdermott Trio with an upbeat instrumental for us. Chris Mcdermott on guitar, Tomoko Iwamoto on violin, and Ed Arnold on percussion. It's early fall, and the summer guest season at the lake resort is winding down. The owner of a boat rental shop is relaxing on the dock, watching the boats on the lake, when suddenly one of the boats catches his attention. He picks up his megaphone and shouts, "Boat number 99, come in please. Your time is up. Return to the dock immediately or I'll have to charge you overtime." One of the boat shop employees comes over, taps him on the shoulder and says, "Hey boss, we only have 75 boats. There is no number 99. Boat number 66, are you in trouble?" Today we are looking at the ups and downs and oftentimes unanticipated twists and turns of modern day life. Resilience is an advantageous life quality when you find things going awry and you're trying to readjust on the fly. The extended COVID-19 and variants pandemic is a case in point. If we are too rigid in our responses or too invested in our own expectations, we are going to be quickly disappointed. The ups and downs are inevitable. A most helpful skill to develop in countering the down effect is what's called the bounce back, or the bounce back effect. Bouncing back is essential to living a sane and balanced life. When your boat is flipped upside down in the water, it's what turns the 99 back into a 66. Dr. Mark Laux is Director of Geriatrics for the New York Presbyterian Healthcare System and Professor of Medicine at Cornell Medical College. He's the author of Treat Me, Not My Age. Dr. Laux says one of the keys to a long, healthy old age is the ability to keep moving forward after life's inevitable setbacks. He says, one question I get asked a lot is, how old is your oldest patient? My answer, 109. The next question is usually something like, what nursing home is he or she in? Answer, she is living at home with all her marbles, profoundly engaged in the world around her. And the last question, what is this lady's secret to life? Answer, 1,000 calories a day and an hour of yoga? No. Helen Reichert likes chocolate truffles. Her favorite beverage is Budweiser, and she once announced to me that she was thinking about taking up smoking again. When I protested, she reminded me that she had outlived 4 of her previous doctors and told me to mind my own business. So what's going on here? Unusual longevity often has a genetic basis, and Mrs. Reichert probably does have a gene that contributes to her unusual longevity. But she also exhibits a powerful trait geriatricians call adaptive competence. Adaptive competence is loosely defined as the ability to bounce back from stress. Many scientists view this solely as biological stress, but many of us who care for older patients see adaptive competence as psychologically critical as well. You don't get to be 109 without life hurling a few curveballs at you, and Reichert has had more than her share. Bereavement, gender discrimination, medical issues, and after each, she dusts herself off and moves on. A few years back, she had a modest stroke that affected her language abilities, and I don't think I've seen a patient of any age tackle rehabilitation and speech therapy the way that she did. During her last visit, she asked if I would consider taking on a new patient, her 102-year-old brother, who goes to the office nearly every day. He is another adaptively competent sanitarian. We all know people like this of every age, and we all know the other guy, the pessimist for whom even small disruptions produce out of proportion suffering and, dare I say, whining. Sociologists are studying these traits, and the theory holds up. Rebecca Levy, professor of psychology at the Yale School of Public Health, has studied the longevity of people in their 50s as a function of their perceptions about aging. She asked if they agreed with statements like, "Things keep getting worse as I get older," and "as you get older, you are less useful." Even after she controlled for their medical conditions, subjects who agreed with ideas like these died on average 7.5 years sooner than their glass half full counterparts. So if you're 50 and you don't think your outlook on aging has any impact on the rest of your life, you might want to brighten your attitude a bit. The other striking thing about Reichardt is her self-deprecating sense of humor. A few years ago, her alma mater, Cornell University, wrote to her, "You are our oldest living alum, and we're delighted to offer you a lifetime subscription to our magazine," the university said. Helen scribbled 5 indignant words on their letter and mailed it back. "How incredibly generous of you." An optimist sees the best in the world, while a pessimist sees only the worst. An optimist finds the positive in negative, whereas a pessimist usually finds the negative in the positive. For example, an avid duck hunter was in the market for a new bird dog, and his search ended when he found a dog that could actually walk on water and retrieve the duck. Shocked by his find, he was sure none of his friends would ever believe him. He decided to try to break the news to a friend of his, a pessimist by nature, and invited him to hunt with him and his new dog. As they waited by the shore, a flock of ducks flew by. They fired, and a duck fell. The dog responded and jumped into the water. The dog, however, did not sink, but instead walked across the water to retrieve the bird, never getting more than his paws wet. This continued all day long. Each time a duck fell, the dog walked across the surface of the water to retrieve it. The pessimist watched carefully, saw everything, but did not say a word. On the drive home, the hunter asked his friend, "Did you notice anything unusual about my new dog?" "I sure did," responded the pessimist. "Your dog can't swim." Adaptive competence is the resilient, bounce-back ability to adjust to changing and challenging situations, and to hold one's mental perspective together until a new way of approaching the current situation arises. Although sometimes difficult to apply on a consistent basis to our own lives, it is certainly superior to the alternatives. A key aspect to the bounce-back effect is holding power, the ability to hold one's mental perspective together until a new way of approaching the problem arises. It is a hanging in there and suspending your judgment or assessment until you give it more time to play out. That's why meditation is such a practical practice if you can find time to do it. Meditation allows us to pause for a moment, assess clearly what is going on, and then allows for cognitive restructuring, or possibility of responding to something differently than we would have before. Psychologist William James once said, "One of the greatest discoveries of our generation is that a person can alter their life simply by altering their attitude of mind." Here are 2 examples of resilience and bounce back that might provide a practical dose of inspiration. First is the Dharma Doll. Dharma or Daruma dolls are representations of a historic Indian priest, Bodhidharma, a sage who traveled throughout Japan and China in the 5th or 6th century AD. Bodhidharma is credited with establishing Chan Buddhism in China and Zen Buddhism in Japan. Legend has it that Bodhidharma achieved enlightenment, or Satori, following 9 years of meditation facing a wall. During this time, he neither moved his eyes nor his limbs, and legend has it that as a result, Bodhidharma's limbs shriveled and fell off. Like Bodhidharma, the Dharma dolls have no arms or legs and sit in a meditation pose with large staring eyes and no eyelids. When knocked on its side, the doll pops back to the upright position, hence the name Tumbler Doll, or the roly-poly. It's become a symbol of optimism, good fortune, strong determination, and the ability to overcome adversity. The American version of this is the Weeble, which you may remember, the 70s classic toy now commonly found on eBay. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. They have no legs, kind of shaped like an egg. You can't keep a good Weeble down. 7 times down, 8 times up. So when you're having a bad day at home or at work and you're feeling a little wobbly, just think of a roly-poly Weeble. And you only have to bounce back one more time, then you go down. And the second example is a Gary Larson Far Side cartoon. And in this cartoon, there are 2 big guys in black torturing Gumby on one of those machines where they strap you on a flat surface and then stretch your arms and legs in opposite directions. As they crank the machine, Gumby smiles and simply stretches. One of the guys says, "Well, this just isn't working." So in closing, I have a Billy Collins poem on the topic titled Despair. So much gloom and doubt in our poetry. Flowers wilting on the table, the self regarding itself in a watery mirror. Dead leaves cover the ground, the wind moans in the chimney, and the tendrils of a yew tree inch toward the coffin. I wonder what the ancient Chinese poets would make of all this, the shadows and the empty cupboards. Today, with the sun blazing in the trees, my thoughts turn to the great 10th century celebrators of experience. Wahoo, whose delight in the smallest things could hardly be restrained, and to his joyous counterpart in the western provinces, Yi-ha. So there will be good days and there will be bad days. There will be times when things are going well, and there will be times when nothing you try seems to work at all. There will be the ups and the downs. But if we can maintain poise, equibalance, and a refreshed sense of humor right in the midst of it all, then we will have a better chance to bounce back, make the necessary adjustments, and carry on, doing for what needs to get done. So now, let us move forward, open to the possibilities that lie ahead, as well as the inevitable setbacks. Our eyes turn to the affirmative, our hearts toward love and compassion. Mistakes and success are both equally valuable, but it's the continuing to continue that makes all the difference. The bouncing back to give it another try, like a weeble that wobbles but finds a way to adjust. The adaptive creativity that finds a new way to meet the new day. Let us move on in faith, in love, with creativity. Blessed are we all on this day. Amen. As we extinguish the chalice, we leave this gathered community but we do not leave our connections, our concern, or our care for each other. Although we are apart physically in these demanding and unprecedented times, we remain one in spirit and in common bonds of heart. Until we are together again, my friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving. Amen, and blessed be on this day. I want to thank you all for joining us for today's UU Weekly Service. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Practice kindness, keep your attitude positive, and look out for those having a difficult time. I want to thank our cameraman, Christoph, today for filming today's service, and thank Carmichael and Board Barista for handling our production details. Again, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.